Thank you for Cam. Okay. So now for our third group, we have Guillermo Lorca, straight from Spain, and Luis Obregon, straight from Nicaragua, to present us DTL.
Thank you, Senpai. As you guys know that reference, Jeffrey has been my senpai since day one. Okay, before we start, we actually want to start with a quick survey around the room. So by show of hands, how many of you guys have hobbies? How many of you are learners?
And how many of you at any point in your career or life had a mentor? Perfect. Awesome.
The thing is, there are not a lot of accessible spaces that connect us so that we can learn and explore new fields until now. We are DTL, the social network that connects people so that they can teach and learn. Are you down to learn? Hey, my name is Luis Alexander Obregón Mogollón. I come from a beautiful land of lakes and volcanoes, Nicaragua. I grew up in California and I moved to Puerto Rico almost 2 years ago in mid-July as part of the Center for Design Thinking and Innovation in Education, CDTI for short. And CDTI is a nonprofit organization that works with education. And then I stayed in Puerto Rico because I loved the people here, the land, and because of Hoverton mainly. I actually had no background with computer and science, software engineering, any coding. It wasn't even on my radar, but I got interested because of the education model, which is peer learning and project-based. And I gave it a try and I loved it. And now I'm a little bit more nerdy. And, and now I'm here soon to graduate with all my peers. And this is my partner.
Hello, I'm Guillermo Lorca. I'm from Madrid. I came to Puerto Rico a couple of years ago looking for new opportunities. Before Hoverton, I was a cashier at the Emacs, and now I'm a software developer and work on the client side of DTL.
Why DTL? DTL came to be when I was driving. Sorry.
Hello?
Hello, hello. Oh, awesome. So DTL came to be when I was driving back to Bayamon after a really long day of work at Hoverton. And as you can see, I was fighting with the Puerto Rican traffic as usual, as many of you can relate. And besides fighting, I was also trying to see what I was gonna do today. What was gonna be that idea that I was gonna do for my portfolio project. And in that moment, I had an aha moment and thought about something we call entre sesiones in CDTI, specifically the exploraciones part, which are classes taught by members of the community to our students that wouldn't normally be taught or offered at their school. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be amazing if everyone could have this opportunity? Starting with online education, looking something like this. Next slide. Looking something like this in the start of the pandemic, it was not interactive. It was not fun. There was no connection. And to be honest, most of us probably fell asleep, including me. And sure, there are platforms like Masterclass, which you pay so you can learn from professionals like Gordon Ramsay or Stephen Curry through videos. But where's the connection in that?
And speaking about the connection, let me tell you about my history and why I was on board with this project from the very beginning. I have tried in the past learn how to program by myself multiple times, and every single method failed to me. I tried Udemy courses, tutorials, YouTube, everything. It wasn't until I got here to Holberton with their peer learning method and their human connection that I actually could become a programmer.
So DTL integrates integrity, human connection, constant learning, and adaptiveness to our user. Some of our features are a full user authentication for two types of users, our students and tutors. We also have an email messages so that when you sign up for DTL, you get a beautiful welcome to the DTL family message. And when you connect with someone, you get a notification that says you have a new connection with this person. Adding on to that, we have a Zoom integration of their API, which along with the connection message, it generates the random Zoom link room so that you and your new connection can hop in and see each other.
Also, last minute, we managed to add a review system like Uber's, in which tutors and students can review each other. In the last few days, we managed to add a fully functional chat system. Oh, this is a code snippet for the client, my part. This first part, I tried to highlight in blue, but it's super small. It's a auth controller component that wraps the whole application, so we can have a context of the user data through our whole application. Go to the next. This is that auth controller a little bit more in Zoom. You can see that it has multiple functions to control that user data object: login, logout, accept a must request, send a message, etc., etc. Next slide. And this is one of these functions a little bit with more Zoom. This is the, go back, please. That's the login function. It takes 3 parameters: an email, password, and a callback function. I send that email and password to Luis backend, and if I get a 200 response, meaning it succeeded, I use the callback function to redirect the user back to the landing page. And if it fails, I use that 400 response to say to the user what failed, maybe wrong password, that user doesn't exist, etc., etc.
Right. And for the backend, I have 2 code snippets for you guys: the connection system on how it works when someone accepts you, and the other one will be how we send messages. The first one, before I get too much into it, I want to point out on the very top on how Guillermo and I communicated through the whole process, which was basically saying what my function needed or what my endpoints needed so they can succeed, and what I was going to send back to Guillermo so he can make something beautiful out of it. And so for the accepted part, we were actually accessing the databases or the 2 tables of our database, which was the student table and the tutor table. In those 2 sections, specifically the users, we were adding a new connection to their match attribute. And then for the tutor side, we were moving from pending to, and now you have a new accepted student. And then go back. And then the other one is my favorite part of the code, where we create a sub collection so that 2 users can connect and keep all of the history of their chats. And for how we created this, it was actually using the 2 users' IDs, which was, example, if Guillermo was my tutor and his ID was 45, and I was a student and my ID was 12, our combined sub collection ID will be 4512, and only us 2 could see those messages, not in the back end side, but in the front end. And how they really interact with each other is, example, in the sign in, you type your email, hello, pablo@gmail.com, and a password. And then that sends a JSON query to the backend. In the backend, I make sure to filter out that information. Does that user really exist? Is that a correct password? And then send either a 200 or 400 response to Guillermo. If it's a 400 response, the front end sends a message saying, user doesn't exist, wrong password. But if it's a 200 response, the front end makes sure to send the users to a new landing page or a new homepage. The technologies we used were Firebase for the backend, for backend deployment, and their Firestore, which is a NoSQL database. We also use Node.js and the Express framework.
For the client, we use React and Axios for the API calls, AWS Amplify for the deployment, and Postman for testing.
And just so you guys get a sense of our collaboration and timeline, we started our project a little bit before it was supposed to. And our first week or beginning of February, we started doing user research. What was our user gonna experience when they type dtl-down-to-learn.com? Or what was our user gonna be like? So our users are mainly from 18 and up, but this doesn't limit to high school students either. Then in mid-February, we had a technologies research and practice. Everything that we used was new. We had no idea what we were doing at first. So we made sure we practiced so that we got comfortable with the field. And by ending February, we already had a full user authentication system but only for the regular users, still not the tutors. By week 1 of the project actually starting with the coding part, we had a landing page, emails that could be sent to you, and Zoom's API integration with a random URL link. By week 2, we had a connection system, a review system like Uber, and a chat system that Guillermo didn't want to implement. And so now this is detailed today, but all this couldn't have happened if we didn't constantly iterate or gone back and fix up our code a little bit and clean it up, and also test it along the way.
And for some of the challenges, the hardest one was that everything was new. We didn't use JavaScript all that much through the curriculum, and we decided to use everything JavaScript and every framework based on JavaScript for a final project. And not only that, trying to learn React without a strong foundation on JavaScript was not a great idea. So we had to go back and make sure our foundations in JavaScript were better. Not only that, the Firebase documentation in general is less than great, let's say like that. If you right now try to install and use Firebase SDK as it comes, it doesn't work out of the box. You need to go through GitHub issues and we went like through 20 or 30 GitHub issues until we found the issue. You need to change in the JSON file, the number of the version, and then reinstall the whole package. So yeah, that wasn't fun.
And the connection to Zoom's API wasn't the best at first. Their documentation doesn't really specify how we can integrate it to our own needs, but it helped us a little bit. And the tutors profile page was a little bit difficult for us. We had to change it up 3 times, mainly because we had so much more information than the regular user will have. We also, as again, the chat was this last minute system that we integrated, but we made it work. And we also had too much caffeine in our system. So sometimes we had jitters, especially Guillermo a little bit more than me. And now, as my peer said, Televisa presenta or demo.
Okay, now it's my turn. When I go like this, you stop the video. Okay, you know. Okay, let's stop it. Okay, we can use our browser of choice and type dtl-downtolearn.com and we'll go to our portfolio project. Go on. Firefox is the best. Okay. This is, stop a little bit. This is our guest landing page. This is what users see when they go to our page and they are not logged in. It explains what DTL is about. It explains how it works, shows you some of the tutors you can meet at the application, and what interest you can learn in DTL. Go back. Like I said, you have 3 bullet points teaching you what DTL is about, a header. You can see some of the tutors you can meet at the application and the interest we are covering. And also, we're saying that we're going to add more interest based on user feedback in the future. Okay, we decide we like this application and we want to try to register as a student. So let's do that. We click on Become a Student and we're greeted with this page. You type your new user information, your name, email, password, etc. So let's try typing our password. And as you can see, I made a small mistake. Both passwords are not the same, and our user interface tells that to the user. So let's fix that. There you go. We're logging. This is the landing page after you log in as a student. As you can see, you have on the left side a navigation bar that you can select your interest to filter tutors by interest. You can see their cards, their reviews, a small description, where are they from, their name, etc., etc. So let's check some of those tutors. Maybe programming, maybe wellness, who knows? Art, I want to learn art. This tutor seems good enough. Let me check her profile. And in their profile page, you can see their reviews as a student, as tutor, a gallery of their portfolio work, and some URLs that take you to their profiles, like LinkedIn, etc. So before we try to match with Maria, let's first update our profile so she doesn't see an empty user. Let's change our avatar. We can see it works perfectly fine. Let's change our description and location. For example, so Maria can know that we are into art. Let's say, for example, hey, I want to learn art. There was a typo there. Learn